For 17 years. I woke up before sunrise every Thanksgiving. I peeled mountains of potatoes. I basted turkeys until my hands smelled like butter for days. I baked pies no one ever thanked me for. While everyone laughed. While cameras flashed. While glasses clinked. I stayed in the kitchen. Every single year. Not once. Not a single time. Did anyone ask me to be in the family photo? I wasn't forgotten. I was erased. Then, on my 17th Thanksgiving, I smiled. Untied my apron. Placed one completely raw turkey on the kitchen counter. Walked out the front door. Ignored every phone call. Skipped Christmas. And 3 months later, half the family wasn't speaking to each other. One marriage ended. A multimillion-dollar inheritance disappeared. And the people who treated me like a servant finally learned. The quiet woman in the kitchen had been keeping every one of their darkest secrets. They thought I needed them. They had no idea. They were about to lose everything. My name is Emily Carter. When I married Daniel, I believed I'd found the family I'd never had. His parents hugged me. His sisters called me our new sister. Everyone smiled. For exactly 6 months. Then something changed. It happened so slowly I barely noticed. Whenever there was a family dinner, someone would say, "Emily, can you help in the kitchen?" Then, "Emily, can you set the table?" Then, "Emily, can you wash the dishes?" Eventually, nobody asked anymore. They simply expected it. By our second Thanksgiving, I was cooking almost everything. Daniel would kiss my forehead. "You're amazing, babe." Then he'd disappear into the living room to watch football with everyone else. I thought, maybe next year would be different. It wasn't. Year after year, the menu grew. So did the guest list. 20 people. 25. Sometimes 30. Every holiday became my full-time job. Turkey. Ham. Stuffing. Mashed potatoes. Sweet potatoes. Green bean casserole. Dinner rolls. Pumpkin pie. Apple pie. Pecan pie. Everything. People would walk into the kitchen. Take food directly off the stove. Without even saying hello. Then they'd disappear. Every year. I heard laughter from the dining room. But no one noticed. I was eating alone in the kitchen after everyone else had finished. The only person who thanked me was Daniel's grandmother. She would squeeze my hand and whisper, "You deserve better than this." I never understood what she meant. Until the photographs. Every Thanksgiving, Daniel's mother insisted on taking family pictures. Everyone gathered outside. Parents. Children. Grandchildren. Brothers. Sisters. Even the dogs. I was still inside. Cleaning dishes. One year. I finally stepped outside. Just in time to hear Daniel's sister laugh. "Hurry. Take it before Emily gets out here." Everyone laughed. The photographer clicked. Smile. Another picture. Smile. Then they all walked inside. No one noticed. I had been standing 10 feet away. Holding a pie. That night, I looked through the photos online. Hundreds of comments. Perfect family. So blessed. Everyone together. Everyone. Except me. That was the first time I cried over a photograph. But it wouldn't be the last. The only person who ever truly saw me was Grandma Eleanor. She watched everything. Every insult. Every ignored thank you. Every holiday I disappeared into the kitchen. One Christmas, she handed me a tiny wooden box. "Don't open this until after I'm gone." I laughed nervously. "Grandma, don't say things like that." She smiled. "Oh, sweetheart. You'll understand someday. I hid the box in my closet. And forgot about it. For 5 years. Until the day she died. I had no idea. That tiny box contained a handwritten letter. One key. And proof that would destroy the Carter family's perfect image forever. And when I finally read it, I realized something terrifying. I hadn't been invited into their family. I had been chosen. Because they thought I'd never discover the truth. They were wrong. The funeral ended on a cold December afternoon. Everyone cried. Everyone hugged. Everyone talked about what an incredible woman Grandma Eleanor had been. But the moment we returned to the house, they started arguing over her jewelry. Her silver. Her antique furniture. Even the china plates she'd treasured for 50 years. I stood silently in the kitchen. Making coffee. Just like always. No one asked if I was okay. No one offered to help. Daniel leaned over and whispered. Can you make another pot? Uncle Richard wants decaf. I stared at him. His grandmother had been buried less than 2 hours earlier. And all he could think about was coffee. That night, after everyone had gone home, I remembered the wooden box. My hand's tray bled as I unlocked it. Inside were only 3 things. A brass key. A folded handwritten letter. And a faded photograph. The photograph stole my breath. It showed Grandma Eleanor standing beside a younger woman. The woman looked almost exactly like me. Same eyes. Same smile. Same dark hair. On the back, Grandma had written only 6 words. Her daughter never knew the truth. My heart began pounding. I unfolded the letter. Dear Emily. If you're reading this, I'm no longer here to protect you. There's something Daniel's family never wanted you to discover. They didn't welcome you because they loved you. They welcomed you because they feared what would happen if you ever learned who your mother really was. I stopped breathing. What? My mother had died when I was 10. Or, at least, that's what I'd always been told. The letter continued. The brass key opens safe deposit box 317 at First National Bank. Inside are documents your father hid for more than 30 years. Read everything before confronting anyone. Trust no one. Not even Daniel. I read the last sentence 5 times. Not even Daniel. The man I'd loved for 17 years. The man I defended against everyone. The man I believed would never lie to me. Suddenly, every strange moment from the past 17 years came rushing back. The family photographs. The whispered conversations that stopped whenever I entered a room. Daniel refusing to discuss my parents. His mother changing the subject whenever I mentioned my childhood. None of it had been random. It had all been planned. The next morning, I told Daniel I was going Christmas shopping. Instead, I drove straight to First National Bank. The manager looked at the brass key. His face changed. Mrs. Carter, we've been instructed to release the contents only to you. He disappeared into the vault. When he returned, he carried a small black box. Inside were 3 envelopes. A leather-bound journal. And a thick stack of legal papers. The first envelope contained DNA test results. My name. My mother's name. Another man's name. Not my father. I felt dizzy. The journal belonged to Grandma Eleanor. Each page revealed another family secret. Daniel's father had cheated his own brother out of the family business. Daniel's sister had secretly borrowed hundreds of thousands of dollars from Grandma and never repaid a cent. Daniel himself had been hiding something even worse. I flipped to the final page. My hands froze. Grandma had written. Daniel married Emily because his mother insisted. She believed marrying Emily would keep the family's greatest secret buried forever. I whispered. No. It couldn't be true. Daniel loved me. Didn't he? Then I opened the final envelope. Inside was a copy of a handwritten agreement, signed 20 years earlier. One signature belonged to Daniel's mother. Another belonged to my late father. The agreement stated that if I ever discovered the truth, the Carter family would lose every claim to the Hawthorne estate, a property now worth over $40 million. I stared at the paper in disbelief. For 17 years, they hadn't treated me like family. They'd treated me like insurance. If I stayed quiet, they kept everything. If I learned the truth, they lost it all. And suddenly, Grandma's final words made perfect sense. Trust no one. I didn't confront Daniel. Not yet. People tell the truth far more easily when they think you know nothing. So I smiled, cooked dinner, folded laundry, laughed at his jokes. And every night, while he slept beside me, I copied every document from Grandma's journal into a locked folder. Then I hired someone. A private investigator. Former FBI. His name was Michael Ross. 3 days later, he called. "Mrs. Carter, are you sitting down?" "No. You should." Silence. Then he said the words that shattered the last piece of my marriage. "Your husband has been meeting the same woman every month, for almost 12 years. My knees nearly gave out. 12 years? Yes. Are they having an affair? I don't think so. That answer confused me even more. If it isn't an affair, what is it? I don't know yet. But whatever they're hiding, they're terrified you'll find out. A week later, Michael followed Daniel after work. Instead of going home, Daniel drove to an old storage facility on the edge of town. Unit 214. The mysterious woman arrived 10 minutes later. She wasn't glamorous. She wasn't young. She looked to be around 60. She hugged Daniel, then handed him a thick envelope. Michael photographed everything. When Daniel left, the investigator spoke with the storage manager. By pure luck, Unit 214 had fallen behind on rent months earlier. The contents were scheduled for auction. With the proper paperwork, we legally gained access before the sale. Inside, there were dozens of dusty boxes, old photographs, business ledgers, family journals, and one locked metal briefcase. The key was hanging on a nail inside the unit, almost as if someone wanted it to be found. Inside the briefcase were hundreds of letters, every one addressed to Emily. Not a single one had ever been mailed. The oldest letter was dated 23 years ago. It was written by a woman named Sarah. I had never heard that name before. The first line made my hands shake. My dearest daughter. My daughter. I read it again. Then again. She wrote about birthdays she'd missed, Christmas presents she'd bought but never delivered, watching me from across the street on my first day of school, crying after every visit because someone had told me she was dead. She wasn't dead. She had been alive. All these years. Someone had stolen my childhood. The final paragraph broke. Me. I wanted to tell you the truth, but your father made me promise. He said powerful people would destroy our lives if they learned where you were. I couldn't breathe. If Sarah was my mother, who had I buried? And why had everyone lied? 2 months passed. Not a word escaped my lips. Daniel thought everything was normal. His family certainly did. Then his mother called. Emily. Thanksgiving is at our house this year. As always, you'll cook, won't you? For the first time in 17 years. I didn't answer immediately. She laughed. What? You're not going to abandon us now, are you? I smiled into the phone. Of course not. I'll make it unforgettable. She had no idea. Those would become the most expensive words she'd ever hear. For the next 3 weeks, I acted like the same obedient daughter-in-law. I bought every ingredient. Prepared every recipe. Marinated the turkey. Baked the pies. Even made Grandma Eleanor's famous stuffing. Everyone praised me. Emily always saves Thanksgiving. Emily's the heart of this family. Funny. They only noticed my value when they were hungry. The night before Thanksgiving, I quietly removed one thing from the refrigerator. The turkey. Instead, I placed a completely raw turkey back inside the roasting pan. Then I sealed an envelope. Across the front, I wrote only 3 words. Open after dinner. At 6 o'clock. The house was packed. 32 guests. Children laughing. Football playing on television. Wine glasses clinking. Exactly like every other year. Daniel kissed my cheek. Everything ready? I smiled. Almost. I carried the roasting pan into the kitchen. Set it on the counter. Untied my apron. Placed the sealed envelope beside the turkey. Picked up my purse. Walked calmly to the front door. Daniel looked confused. Emily? Where are you going? I turned around. For the first time in 17 years. Every single person was looking at me. I smiled. I've already given this family 17 Thanksgivings. You can cook your own dinner. Then I opened the front door. Stepped outside. And drove away. Behind me. Someone finally lifted the roasting pan lid. A scream echoed through the house. The turkey is raw. Then. Another voice shouted. What's in this envelope? And as Daniel's mother slowly unfolded the letter, the silence that followed was louder than any scream she'd ever heard. The dining room fell silent. No one moved. Daniel's mother, Patricia, slowly opened the envelope. She smiled at first. I'm sure this is one of Emily's little jokes. Then she unfolded the first page. Her smile vanished. Her hands began to shake. What? No. Her voice cracked. Daniel stood up. Mom? She looked at him with absolute terror. She knows. The room froze. She knows everything. Daniel snatched the letter from her hands. As he read, the color drained from his face. His younger sister grabbed it next. Within seconds, every adult in the room was staring at one another instead of the paper. Because they all knew. The secret was finally over. To the Carter family. For 17 years, I believed I was your daughter. Instead, I was your unpaid cook, maid, babysitter, and invisible servant. You erased me from every family photograph. You thanked me only when dinner was late. You thought silence meant weakness. You were wrong. Grandma Eleanor left me the truth. I know about the Hawthorne estate. I know about the agreement my father signed. I know why Daniel married me. I know why my real mother disappeared. And tomorrow morning, my attorney will file every document with the probate court. By the time you finish reading this, everything you protected for 30 years will belong to the person you tried hardest to erase. Happy Thanksgiving. Emily. No one spoke. Then Daniel whispered. What have we done? My phone rang 27 times before I reached the highway. Daniel. Patricia. His sisters. His uncle. Even cousins who hadn't called me in years. I ignored everyone. Then a voicemail came through. It was Daniel. Emily, please, don't do this. I can explain. I laughed for the first time in months. Explain? After 17 years? Too late. I switched off my phone. The next morning. At exactly 9 o'clock. I walked into Attorney James Holloway's office. He had already reviewed every document Grandma Eleanor left behind. He looked at me seriously. Mrs. Carter. I've practiced law for 38 years. I've never seen a family hide something this long. He slid a folder across the table. Once these papers are filed, there is no going back. I didn't hesitate. I signed every page. The clerk stamped them. Done. The Carter family had officially lost control of the Hawthorne estate. That afternoon, someone knocked on my apartment door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Standing outside was the woman from the storage unit. The woman Michael had photographed with Daniel. She looked exhausted. Tears filled her eyes. "You must be Emily." I nodded. She held out another letter. "My name is Sarah. I'm your mother." The world stopped. I stared at her. "No. My mother died." Sarah closed her eyes. "That's what they wanted you to believe. They threatened your father. They told him that if he let me near you, they would destroy both of us. So he lied. He told you I was dead." Every memory of my childhood shattered in an instant. I wanted to slam the door. I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, "Why now?" She looked straight into my eyes. "Because Grandma Eleanor spent the last 10 years making sure the truth would survive her." Then she reached into her purse and handed me one final envelope. Across the front, in Grandma Eleanor's handwriting, were 7 words. "Only open after the court hearing." My heartbeat quickened. I slowly looked back up. Sarah said quietly, "Emily, you still don't know the worst secret." The courthouse was packed. Lawyers, reporters, curious relatives. Even people who hadn't spoken to the Carter family in years showed up. News had spread quickly. One family. One hidden inheritance. 30 years of lies. I walked into the courtroom wearing a simple navy blue suit. No jewelry. No makeup except enough to hide the sleepless nights. For the first time in 17 years. No one looked through me. Every eye followed me. Daniel was already seated beside his attorney. When he saw me, he stood. "Emily." His voice cracked. "Can we talk?" I looked at him for a long moment. There was a time I would have done anything to hear those words. But that time ended the day I realized you never truly saw me. I walked past him without another glance. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The hearing began. Daniel's attorney tried to argue that I had misunderstood the documents. Then my lawyer calmly placed Grandma Eleanor's journal on the evidence table. The courtroom became silent. Every page had been authenticated. Every signature verified. Every letter examined by handwriting experts. There was no denying the truth anymore. Then, something unexpected happened. Daniel stood. "I want to testify." His attorney whispered furiously. "Sit down." Daniel ignored him. He walked to the witness stand, placed his hand on the Bible, and looked directly at me. Tears filled his eyes. "I did love you." My expression didn't change. "But I didn't marry you because I fell in love." A gasp echoed through the courtroom. My mother told me that if I married Emily, our family would never lose the Hawthorne estate. She said keeping Emily close was safer than letting someone else discover the truth. The room exploded with whispers. Daniel lowered his head. I told myself that eventually I'd fall in love. And I did. But by then, I was already trapped inside the lie. My lawyer called one final witness. Sarah. My biological mother. She walked slowly to the stand. Patricia's face turned pale. Sarah looked directly at her. "For 30 years. I stayed silent because you threatened to destroy my daughter." Patricia shouted. "That's a lie." Sarah calmly reached into her purse. She removed an old cassette tape. My husband recorded every meeting. The courtroom clerk inserted it into the audio system. Static filled the room. Then Patricia's younger voice echoed through the speakers. "If Emily ever learns who she really is, We lose everything. Another voice asked. What if Sarah comes back? Patricia laughed. Then we'll make sure Emily believes she's dead forever. The recording ended. Complete silence. The judge removed his glasses. Even the attorneys looked stunned. Patricia buried her face in her hands. For the first time in decades. No one defended her. The judge looked toward me. Mrs. Carter. Do you have any final evidence? I nodded. I opened Grandma Eleanor's last envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter addressed to the court. The judge read it aloud. If this letter is being read, then my family has finally been forced to face the truth. I loved my son. But I could never forgive what he and Patricia did. Emily spent 17 years feeding this family. Yet they starved her of love. Justice delayed is still justice. Everything I legally own. My home. My savings. My shares in the Hawthorne estate. I leave entirely to Emily Carter. Not because she married into this family. But because she was the only one who ever acted like family. Eleanor Hawthorne. The courtroom fell completely silent. Patricia began crying. Daniel covered his face. His sisters stared at the floor. No one could argue anymore. Grandma Eleanor had spoken one final time. 6 months later, I hosted Thanksgiving. Not for the Carters. For people who had become my real family. Sarah sat beside me. Michael, my lawyer, and a few close friends filled the table with laughter. No one asked me to cook everything alone. Everyone helped. When dinner was finished, someone smiled and said, Emily, it's picture time. Without thinking, I started walking toward the kitchen. Old habits. Sarah gently caught my hand. No. You belong here. She pulled me into the center of the group. The camera flashed. For the first time in 17 years. I wasn't behind the meal. I wasn't behind the camera. I wasn't forgotten. I was exactly where I had always deserved to be. Front and center. And somewhere, I imagined Grandma Eleanor smiling. Because the woman they tried so hard to erase had become the one person no one would ever forget. The end. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't making your enemy suffer. It's refusing to let them define your worth, and building a life where you are finally seen, loved, and impossible to erase.